Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's Jello-filled spooky eyeball candy bomb tutorial, where we're showing you how to make these kind of gruesome eyeballs, and when you bite into them or smash them, they're full of gooey red Jello. Tools and equipment that we will be using today: I've got 2 Ziploc bags and a pair of scissors. I've got some pre-prepared Jello or jelly. So I've just used strawberry jelly or Jello, and I've made that up as per the manufacturer's instructions. Now, when I've made that up, I've actually added an additional tablespoon of edible gelatin powder. So you can buy this in the baking section at most good supermarkets. And I've just added that in because it's gonna give us a slightly stiffer and firmer Jello, which is just gonna last a little bit longer and keep its shape a little bit better. I've got some melted white chocolate. I've got some green, black and red candy melts, all melted. If you don't have access to candy melts, you can also use a cookie icing or a royal icing. Any icing that will set nice and hard will do. I've got a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons, and I've got a Lollypop stick. Now, I'm also using this in conjunction with my silicone cake pop mould. So I've got a silicone cake pop mould, which I don't use for baking cake pops in, but I do use it for making these awesome little candy bombs. To prepare our candy bombs today, I've taken my silicone cake pop mould and a teaspoon, along with that melted white chocolate. Now, you want to take your melted white chocolate and add in about a half a teaspoon of that melted white chocolate into each of your little mould cavities. And then using the back of your teaspoon, you just want to kind of swipe the chocolate up the sides so that it comes up the sides and just gives you a really nice even sort of a coat. We're going to pop that into the fridge for about 15 minutes until that first coat of chocolate is completely set. Now, when that one comes out of the fridge, we're going to grab another half teaspoon, or maybe even a little less, a quarter of a teaspoon of that white chocolate, and we're going to repeat that process so that we get effectively a double coat. This is going to make sure we've got really nice strong candy bombs, and they're not going to fall apart, and you're not going to have any little gaps in them that the Jello is going to seep through. Once your candy bombs come out of the fridge, they should be looking something like this. Now, to remove them from the silicone cake pop mould, you want to just peel that silicone away. So just be a bit careful with them. They do have a tendency to pop out of the cake pop mould. You can see there, I'm just peeling the silicone away, and that gives us our really nice little candy bomb half. So that's what you're looking for. Each eye is going to require 2 halves. Now, you want to put those back in the silicone mould because we're going to put the Jello back into them while they're sitting in the silicone mould. So you'll release all of your little candy bombs, and then you want to take your big spoon and your Jello. Now, I will mention, and I'm not going to here just for space, you should put this candy bomb mould or your cake pop mould onto an oven tray or onto a stable tray before you start filling it with Jello, so you can just pick the whole tray out so that the mould doesn't wobble around and spill Jello everywhere. So just taking your tablespoon, you're just going to spoon in some of that Jello, and you want to make sure that your Jello is completely cooled. So I added a little bit of ice into mine while it was cooling down so I didn't have to wait so long. You don't want it to be set, but you definitely don't want it to be even a little bit warm because we're working with chocolate, and you definitely don't want the warm Jello melting through your chocolate. So you should have something that looks like this. Now, they're going to go off into the fridge until that Jello is fully set. Could be an hour or so, could be a little bit more, and you can do all this the day before you want to put them together. We'll pop that off into the fridge and we'll come back when we're ready to pop our little candy bombs together. All right, so I've pre-prepared some of our little candy bomb halves just to keep things moving for our tutorial. So once that Jello is completely set, you should just be able to really easily remove them from that silicone mold because we've already loosened them off, and you should have your little candy bomb halves. So what you want to do now is we're going to join the 2 of them together. Take a Ziploc bag and you just want to spoon in some of that white chocolate. Make sure you let any air out of the bag and push it all the way down into the corner. Now, you want to cut off just a very fine little piping tip off the end of that bag there. It's not too fine, but it's not too thick. So you can see there it's making sort of a line about that thick when I pipe it onto the table. Now, you want to take 2 halves of your Jello-filled candy bomb and you want to match them up. So those there are looking pretty good. I've got a little bit of a gap there. That's okay. Our white chocolate's going to fill that in. So holding the 2 together, you want to run your Ziploc bag all the way around, and where I know I've got a bit of a gap, I'm just going to make sure I squeeze in a little bit of extra chocolate. And you do want to work quite quickly here because your cake pop or your candy bomb is going to be quite cold and it's going to be full of that cold Jello. You don't want it to start setting all the way around with that white chocolate. And then you're going to use your finger, starting where you started, and just use your finger just to wipe off around. And as you wipe off, you're creating a really nice, smooth seal, which is also joining your 2 halves together. Let that one completely set, just leave it sitting for a couple of minutes. And with this little hole here, you can see there I've not quite filled that in enough. So just give it another little bit, maybe count to 5. and wipe it off again. Perfect. We'll sit that down and let it dry, and while we're doing that, we can start preparing our little eyeball. So for the eyeball, this is where our lollipop stick comes in. Now you don't have to have a lollipop stick here. You can have a toothpick or you can just have a little spoon, but I'm going to use either end of the lollipop stick to do our green and black detailing. So choose whichever side of the candy bomb you like. I'm going to use this side here just because it's got a little bit of a sort of a hole where the chocolate's been anyway. And I'm going to start off with that green candy melt. The green candy melt, I'm just stirring it a little bit just to make sure it's nice and fluid. And I'm just picking up a bit of a blob of it on that lollipop stick. In the center on the front here, I'm just doing a bit of a green spot as a bit of an outer color of the eyeball. Perfect. Now you want to let that completely set. We're going to let that set and then we'll be back to finish off decorating. All right, so my little green eye color is now completely set. So you want to take your Ziploc bag and you're just going to add in a little bit of that red candy melt. Push it all the way down to the corner of the bag. Make sure you seal the bag and let any air out. Now, you want to cut off a really nice, fine little tip off the end of this one, as thin as you can. So you can see there I'm getting a nice, really a nice thin line. This is going to be to make all of the little bloodshot sections of our eyes. Now when I do this, I like to actually hold the eyeball, which is why I've made sure that it's completely set. And you're just going to come down, start at the actual green color and just make your little bloodshot marks. So with bloodshot, make sure that you've got your long ones, you've got little short ones that come off that, then you've got little sort of shortish ones that come out in the middle. Don't worry too much about them all meeting up at the back just yet because we're going to let those front ones set anyway. And then we can go and add a little bit more to the back if you like. Perfect. So now you just want to let that completely set. So while you're waiting for that candy bomb to set, if you're concerned that you're going to melt it or you've got particularly hot hands or in a hot climate, just grab just a spoon and just rest it into the spoon. The spoon's just going to stop it from rolling around while it's drying. All right, now I'm happy that that one there's dry. If you wish to at this stage, you can come around the back, use your candy melts again and just join up some of your little bloodshot sections right at the back of the eyeball. Back in the spoon to dry. Okay, so once the back of your little candy bomb eye has completely set, you can take your lollipop stick, and I'm just going to use the opposite end to what I used for the green. Give that black candy melt a little bit of a stir just to loosen it up a little bit. And another little blob right in the middle for our pupil. So there you've got your really cool and slightly gruesome, spooky Jello-filled eyes, perfect for Halloween treats. And when your guests bite into these, they're going to be full of gruesome but delicious red strawberry Jello. I hope that you guys have loved watching this tutorial. I love Halloween themed sweets and treats, and I've got lots more to come. Thanks for watching My Cupcake Addiction.